Formula One fans to Box, a F1 radio show with Skye Williamson. And today has been the very last day of the 2024 season with the 24th race in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi Grand Prix has been the season final for all but 3 years since its debut in 2009. Some fun facts about Abu Dhabi before we get into exactly what went down today. The Drivers' Championship has been settled 4 times, once in 2010, which was 4 drivers, and this has been the only time that's ever happened with Sebastian Vettel, Jenson Button, Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton. Once again in 2014 with no other than Lewis Hamilton himself and Nico Rosberg. Again in 2016 between Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton. And the most famous and most controversial Grand Prix of all, the 2021 Abu Dhabi against Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen himself holds the race record of lap time with 1 minute 26 seconds in 2021. But Lewis Hamilton himself holds the most wins and poles position at Abu Dhabi Grand Prix with 5 of each. So Abu Dhabi is the last race of the season, which is always an emotional race with so many drivers leaving and moving on from Formula One. We have so many rookies joining in 2025. Carlos Sainz will be moving to Williams Racing after being replaced by Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton, after 12 years at Mercedes, is leaving for Ferrari, a shock move that has left the world speechless on the 2nd February. But we have had a year to adjust to this fact. We've only had half the season to adjust to Carlos Sainz move to Williams, as he kept it close to his chest what he was going to do. Valtteri Bottas, the ex-teammate of Lewis Hamilton, is likely racing for the last time in F1. And this Abu Dhabi race determines the Constructors Championship, which is McLaren versus Ferrari, both of which who have not won a Constructors Championship in the last decade. The only teams to win have been Mercedes and Red Bull themselves. Qualifying was very interesting, as it always is. It can go very wrong for everyone, and as usual, qualifying went wrong for King of Quali himself, Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc came 14th, but to add salt to the wound, he had a 10-place grid drop for his engine, which means he begins on back row at 19. In a statement, Charles Leclerc said he will try to make the miracle happen. McLaren have 2 drivers on the front row. Ferrari only have 1 in third, Carlos Sainz, and Charles Leclerc at the back of the grid. I wonder how the podium will work out. Lando Norris first, Carlos Sainz second, and Charles Leclerc third, not Piastri. This race is not just important because it's the last remaining lit race. It is also important for Checo Perez to prove that he belongs in Red Bull Racing. There have been rumours this entire season that he may not be remaining after the race, even though he has a contract till 2025. But he starts in the top 10 for this race. The rumours have even been circulating even more this week after F2 driver himself from junior team of Red Bull said he doesn't know where his future lies, and ? He won't reveal after many Formula 2 drivers are moving up to F1 this year. Will he be one of them? We'll find out. Lewis Hamilton was quicker than his teammate George Russell in qualifying until he ran over a loose boulevard. In his final lap, this leads him to qualify 18th. But after grid penalties, multiple of them in the race, he starts at 16th. Lewis Hamilton said in a statement, "I'm grateful to everyone in the team for all those years, and that's why there's disappointment of yesterday. You want to give it your best, but today is a new day." So let's begin lap by lap of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix of 2024. The majority of drivers have started on medium tyres except Lewis Hamilton on 16th. Ironic to 2021, the Mercedes team is actually hoping for a safety car this year, not one like 2021. I am aware that some people might not know what 2021 Abu Dhabi is, and I'm here to explain it to you. It's obviously how Max Verstappen got his first Drivers' Championship, which everyone knows he has earned his 4th one this year. So the Abu Dhabi 2021, the FIA acknowledged human error in the handling of race regulations, which led to Massey, the F1 and FIA director himself, being let go due to his handling of the safety car. So what happened? Lewis Hamilton was ahead, right, in Formula 1 terms. Yeah, he was like seconds, but realistically, like hours away from Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen in no other race would ever win because Lewis Hamilton was so far ahead. However, there was a crash and a safety car was deployed. It was a late deployment of the safety car, which led to a disrupted finish, significantly impacting the outcome of the championship, with 2 drivers, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, on 369.5 points each. So whoever came in front would win. However, there was an additional lap with the safety car, which was not completed, as it always is, nor was a complete unlapping. Complete unlapping has that's what needs to be done. This was not happened. Only 5 cars were able to unlap, which were the 5 cars in between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. The result of the unlapping during this incident allowed Max Verstappen to close the large gap between Hamilton, which led to his final dramatic pass on the final lap, which crowned him his first World Championship. So whilst this is obviously very controversial, he has earned himself 3 championships since then, and many people, including Christian Horner himself, the team principal of Red Bull, have said that Lewis Hamilton has 8 World Championships. Many people slip up on it a lot because a lot of people think he was deserving of it. Later, obviously, Massey got let go, but you can't take away a championship once it's been given. Things like this, controversies also happen with Fernando Alonso. But getting back to the present day of 2024, this is Lando Norris's 8th pole of the year. However, he has been known to bottle all his poles, including to his teammate. But this isn't a race his teammate will want to overtake, considering this decides the Constructors Championship, and trying to take out your teammate is not a wise decision. Does this happen? Oh yeah, all the time. But it shouldn't. We should play nice for this one race. But in lap 1, Lando Norris still has pole after lap 1. That's crazy. But this won't be happening this year for Oscar Piastri to overtake him, as Oscar Piastri himself and the World Drivers' Championship winner Max Verstappen touched side by side and both spin out the first corner of lap 1. This is not the only incident in lap 1. Checo Perez, the other half of Red Bull Racing, also spins out and completely stops. Leclerc is now in 8th and Hamilton in P12. These are 2 people that started at the very back already in Q1 and Q2. A virtual safety car gets released during lap 2 for Checo Perez after his car spun out. Pierre Gasly for Alpine goes up to 3rd in lap 3 behind Carlos Sainz. In lap 4, the race is not going very well for Australian driver Oscar Piastri, as another incident happens where he locks up and hits the back of Franco Clapio. Both Franco and Oscar pit in a lap due to the damage to their cars, with a hard tyre change for Piastri from medium. Piastri is under investigation for 2 different incidents, one with Verstappen and another with Franco Clapio. The FIA stewards gave Max Verstappen a 10-second penalty for causing a collision. This will be served when he first pits during the race. Oscar Piastri comments on team radio after the incident, move of the world champion that, and after hearing the penalty, Piastri says, "Good." Very short and sweet from him. So what happened in lap 1? We obviously saw a collision, but Verstappen, a typical Verstappen move that He likes to give the FIA reasons to increase different rules, especially in overtaking and defensive driving. Verstappen tried to dive down the inside of Piastri to overtake him, which tagged the McLaren car, sending them both spinning. So it's his fault and he receives the penalty. But to equalise the penalty, Oscar Piastri also earns himself a 10-second penalty after accidentally running into the back of the Williams car. This is Franco Colapio's last race in Williams and maybe possibly the last race ever at F1, as we have no clue what the future holds, since he was only a mid-season replacement for Logan Sargent after Logan Sargent cost too much with all his car crashes in both the season and the previous season. Franco himself has also caused accidents, which has given the poor Williams mechanics a nightmare to handle. And if you've seen the photos, there are plenty of photos of them duct taping the car, which isn't something that happens in F1, it is something that happens to NASCAR. Formula 1 engineers tried to avoid that, but the Williams team have clearly run out of money, and hopefully next year with Carlos Sainz they can earn some money from the sponsorships. Bottas said on the radio about the Checo incident that he had nowhere else to go as he went in the inside of Checo. The FIA notes that Joe had a false start in lap 10 and they have given him a 5-second penalty, which will be served when he pit stops. His team, Kick Sauber, are known for their awful pit stops that have been over 10 seconds this season, where obviously the average pit stop is probably 2 seconds, which is in Formula 1 every single half seconds matter. Calvin Magnussen, he pits at, as I just said, 10 seconds is quite long, 2 is the one you aim for. He pits at 7.2 seconds, which for a team that wants to beat Alpine probably should be doing better. The FIA also notes that they think Alpine has a false start in lap 13, but in lap 16 the FIA clear him of this, so he receives no penalty, unlike Joe. In his last race with Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton says that he has, quote, no pace after overtaking Liam Lawson in lap 12 and immediately losing it back to him. In lap 19, the big 4 teams lead, with Lando Norris in first, Sainz in second, and Russell in third, Leclerc in fourth, from all the way from 19th, Verstappen in 5th, and Hamilton in 6th. Charles Leclerc decides to pit in lap 22. The FIA stewards give Liam Lawson a penalty for releasing in an unsafe condition, as he says on the radio that his wheels aren't on, so he pits again. This obviously is going to leave him with no time, and for that reason other people will overtake him, which was going to happen. I don't know how you don't have your tyres properly on, but that's something to ask the Red Bull Racing Junior team, not me. There's many questions in how his performance will go. Also, Checo Perez is currently out of this race, which leads to the question, if Liam Lawson performs well, is the seat his for next year? Obviously, this is controversial with Yuki Tsunaki, who should obviously, I think, should be taking the seat. Liam Lawson replaced Daniel Ricciardo mid-season during Austin Grand Prix. He has not had any major races. He has had major drama and incidents with World Drivers' Championship driver Fernando Alonso, as well as issues with Carlos Sainz. So in lap 28, unfortunately, in his last race, in his farewell to being an F1 driver and his farewell to Williams, Franco Colapio is called in by the team to retire. This means Williams Racing only has Alex Albon out, and this is their chance. They're not obviously going to win the Constructors, but they would like to get some points, as for the last few years they have been very low on the table. And obviously Williams is known as the Mercedes Junior team, even though James himself, the team principal, would not want it to be known as a junior team, which might be the conspiracy, is the fact that he has rejected being a junior team, is why Alex Albon did not replace Lewis Hamilton as the Mercedes driver. Instead, Mercedes went inside Mercedes team and went for Kimi. Hopefully that's not the case and Alex had a chance. We always hope that Alex has another chance at one of the big teams, considering his time in Red Bull was cut short. It was not as short as Pierre Gasly's was, who won a Grand Prix a year after being let go by Red Bull, because the question remains, will any other driver ever be able to drive the way Max Verstappen does in a Red Bull? This is the same question people ask about Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Both drivers have been with their team for so long, they know exactly where the buttons are, how to drive the car, they know the mechanics, the drivers, they know everything about their own car. When someone who is new moves to a team, there's going to be a massive adjustment period, which is why it's incredibly talented what Oscar Piastri has done in his first year at McLaren compared to Lando Norris in his 6th year. Obviously, they both now have competitive cars, which they have not had previously. In lap 30, Verstappen decides to pit and he serves his 10-second penalty, which means he comes out in P11. Also in lap 31, Lando Norris is still leading, Sainz is second, and Hamilton is third, but he hasn't pitted yet, so he will be having to go down, because this is generally, Abu Dhabi is a 2 pit stop race. However, the tyre company themselves has said they reckon you could pit once. Is anyone going to do that? I don't know. Some people have said they will. We'll find out. In lap 31, Bottas receives a puncture and locks up straight into the side of his friend Calvin Magnussen, causing loads of debris over the track, but as of late, no safety car. Bottas is now retired and out of the race at lap 32, and this is his last race with Kick Sauber, and it's possibly his last F1 race ever. If you recognize the name Bottas but you don't exactly know where he's from, he used to drive for Mercedes. I believe he won 10 Grand Prix with him, and he was quoted by Lewis Hamilton himself, his favourite teammate. Nico Rosberg says the only reason this is because he didn't challenge Hamilton. Hamilton and Bottas are very good friends, and it's sad to see them both leave their teams on the very final race of the season. Oscar Piastri decides to pit and he serves his penalty in lap 33, which drops him down to P15. And viewer, as you remember, he started in second. How the mighty have fallen. Hamilton decides to pit after this in lap 35 for a medium tyre and comes up to 7th. There was no safety car, of which Hamilton and Mercedes were praying there would be. A safety car is popular in Abu Dhabi because there is a tight corner in turn 5, which is also the scene for many overtake maneuvers, but it is also the scene for a lot of crashes, as we saw with all of them that happened. But no safety car and Hamilton has to pit. Why would Hamilton want a safety car? When there's a safety car, all the teams, they have an option to change the tyres there and there. This means that you don't lose position on the grid and you can just change the tyre. It has nothing. Obviously, this is sometimes controversial. In Brazil this year of 2024, Lando Norris deemed this to be unfair, and because of this luck, he believes this is why Max Verstappen won the Brazil Grand Prix, which obviously led to him eventually in the next race winning the world title. I don't think the FIA are going to change this situation anytime soon. It's completely fair, I think, to change the tyres. Obviously, a safety car has deemed and changed so many titles and it's changed so many Grand Prix, but it reserves the right to change the tyre. Unfortunately, this year there is no safety car and he has to pit to change his from hard to medium. He's not the only one to pit. In lap 42 of 58, Kevin Magnussen pits to softs. And you might have heard me say multiple times that it's been mediums are hards. Obviously that is due to tire temperature. This is a very hot track, which changes into cooler as the sun sets. It's one of the only twilight races, and it's also it was the first twilight race to happen, which is why it has floodlights. Obviously Abu Dhabi is extremely hot, even in December, which, as everyone knows, tire temperature can really change tire degradation as well as clean air, and this is essentially the same thing. So soft is unusual because it will obviously degrade quicker than the other two, but why is he doing this? Simple. They want to have the fastest lap. They want to take, which is only a few points, and it won't win them anything, but it might mean that they has finishes before Alpine, just like a tiny bit. It's a little dig to the other teams. Obviously Ferrari can win, but they would need to win the race, and McLaren is obviously first at the moment, and all McLaren needs to get enough points to win is for one of their teammates to win, and obviously Lando is first. So Ferrari hasn't got a chance this year. They kind of lost a chance as soon as they got a 10th place grid penalty for Charles Leclerc, which is unfortunate, as this was one of the closest years they've had since 2022, with Charles Leclerc almost winning the World Drivers' Championship. Obviously he lost to Verstappen. Unfortunately, Kevin Magnussen does not receive the fastest lap, so the move was unfortunate and pointless, but you've got to give it to them. At least they tried. They're not a big top four team, so they've got to give everything they can to get the bonus points. In lap 50, Lando Norris starts to lap the cars. What do I mean by lap cars? It means that he's overtaken, and right now he's actually driving next to his own teammate, who is in P18. In lap number of 57 out of 58, George Russell is told by Mercedes team to keep the battle between him and Lewis, quote, super clean for 4th place. Obviously I think Mercedes would love a podium, especially Lewis Hamilton would love a podium as his last final departure from Mercedes. Is it unusual they're letting them battle out? A little bit, because the person behind them, which is one of them is Max Verstappen, could easily overtake if they're both fighting each other. It also means their tires degrade more, which means they're slower. Obviously I think if they were in a battle for constructors, they would not do this at all. There would be rules that they wouldn't pass, but since it's also a race of celebration for Lewis Hamilton, they're letting them battle out. And in lap 58 of 58, there's a yellow flag. There's a yellow flag at the last lap. In the last lap, there's a yellow flag for none other than Liam Lawson, because he stopped on the track. This is not a great sign for any Red Bull driver's career, as none of them are winning this race and doing well. Maybe the pressure is getting to them that they know maybe there's a seat at Red Bull available, as they've all stopped, except for Max Verstappen. But Max Verstappen has received a penalty, which I'm not really sure I've ever seen Max Verstappen not receive a penalty in a race. He doesn't know how to clean overtake, unfortunately. However, it seems to work. He's a full World Drivers' Champion, so who am I to complain? And finally, it's victory for Lando Norris with 4 Grand Prix under his belt. Sainz for Ferrari is in 2nd for his last race before he departs to Williams with them. Leclerc is 3rd from 19th. That is like a miracle. That's an incredible position gain of the likes of Lewis Hamilton, who came from 16th to 4th. He overtook George Russell in the last final turn. The victory in Abu Dhabi marks 26 years since McLaren last won the Constructors' title. Not even with Lewis Hamilton did they win. They won the drivers, but they didn't win any Constructors' titles. As the race finishes, Lewis Hamilton does donuts for his last race with Mercedes, which is completely beautiful. It's like a memory of when Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, after being told no, they did donuts for, I believe it was, and you're going to think this is so ironic, I think it was for Fernando Alonso's retirement, who obviously raced in this race anyway, so he did come back. I don't know if he's ever going to leave because he's locked in for next year as well with Aston Martin. After the race, Bottas has been handed a 5-place grid drop. Grid drop, really? I think I'm supposed to write time penalty because I can't imagine that's a grid drop for crashing into Kevin Magnussen. And Lance Stroll, the other half of Aston Martin, was handed a penalty for exceeding track limits. So, Abu Dhabi 2024 Grand Prix. The top 10 are Lando Norris for McLaren, Carlos Sainz for Ferrari, Charles Leclerc for Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton for Mercedes, alongside George Russell for Mercedes, Max Verstappen for Red Bull, Pierre Gasly for Alpine, Nico Hülkenberg for Heinz, Fernando Alonso for Aston Martin, and in 10th, a great recovery from Oscar Piastri himself for McLaren. Charles Leclerc, while rather disappointed, the Ferrari Constructors Championship was in his sight. If it wasn't for he could have won the race if it wasn't for the penalty. But he wins Driver of the Day voted by you. And he says in a statement, the first part of the year, we were nowhere. The second part of the season was incredible. We ended strong, and next year, hopefully, we'll start as strong as we ended. Next year, he will begin with Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, I think it's quite nerve-wracking to know that you are going to drive alongside a 7 world champion. But Charles Leclerc has said how excited he is. There was some subtle hints earlier in the 2023 season. Obviously, it wasn't confirmed that arrangements had been made, but Charles Leclerc had said, after an interviewer asked him who he would like his teammate to be, he went and said, Lewis, which was very surprising for everyone. But obviously, it's been revealed that he is driving for Ferrari next year. And today, the last 3 days of free practice, qualifying and Grand Prix, first for free practice, he arrived in an all-white outfit. Obviously, he's known for his fashion as he will be hosting the 2025 Met Gala. In qualifying, he showed up with a white outfit but a red jacket. Ooh. And then today, he shows up in an all-red outfit. If that's not a statement, I don't know what is. He also requested for Mercedes to remove the catchphrase that was written on his car, which said, every dream needs a team. Let me repeat that. Every dream needs a team for his departure. It's not a team thing, it's just Lewis Hamilton's leaving after he was not respected by the team. His reason for leaving was Mercedes was only willing to give him a 1-year contract. It wasn't exactly the 1-year contract they had a problem with. He had requested for an ambassador role within Mercedes, which for a guy that's won you World Constructors Titles and Drivers Titles, has done charity work within Mercedes, is the reason that many engineers even bothered to move to Mercedes. They said no. They said no. Toto Wolff himself said he would have if he could have given it to him. It was decided above Toto Wolff. Toto Wolff is the team principal of Mercedes F1 team. And it was noted by Nico Rosberg himself, who is known as his ex-teammate, his childhood buddy, his rival, It's a very controversial mixture, but he said that the slogan for his best friend, Lewis Hamilton, should have been every team needs a hero, to honor Lewis Hamilton, because it feels like the whole slogan, which is like they did a whole series of posts and videos and it was all around the world as advertisements saying thank you Lewis, and then it said every dream needs a team. I understand that it's free marketing for them, but if you do want to celebrate your driver, which clearly they've been trying to do, maybe you should do it with a slogan that's obviously not about you. I mean, George Russell did a helmet designed for his celebration with Lewis Hamilton. It was a picture at the very top of, it's a very famous photo of when George Russell was just a kid and he approached Lewis Hamilton for an autograph for his book, and obviously Lewis Hamilton was a McLaren driver at the time and he signed it. He also re-signed it in this press tour before Abu Dhabi. So that was a helmet that meant something. There was so many beautiful parting helmets this year, including Carlos Sainz's and everyone else's. So no, I don't think I think Mercedes should have gone in a different direction. But that being said, the most successful driver-team partnership in history of F1 has finished today on the 8th of December 2024. As he leaves for the 2025 season for his partnership at Ferrari. Toto Wolff. And I'm glad that I'm very happy that he came in fourth. Of course, I'd like a podium, but for the way this year has gone, the car has let him down so many times. Toto Wolff said in the team radio, that was the drive of a world champion. And the part that really gets me, and I think I can admit to myself and to you, I did cry when hearing Lewis Hamilton's radio, his final radio to Mercedes. He said, "We dreamed alone, but together we believed. And as a team, we achieved things that weren't even possible. Thank you for all the courage, the determination, and the passion, and for seeing me and supporting me. What started out as a leap of faith turned into a journey into the history books. So we did everything together. And I'm so, so grateful to everyone." Toto Wolff replied with, "We love you too, and you will always be part of the family. And if we can't win, you should win." Which obviously is a beautiful parting when Mercedes hasn't performed very well this year and his future team Ferrari has. Obviously they were in contention for the Constructors Championship, but this is a 12-year relationship between Lewis Hamilton and Toto Wolff. Obviously Mercedes is an individual team, but Mercedes, when Lewis Hamilton was in McLaren, they had the Mercedes engine, and before that Lewis Hamilton was in the McLaren Mercedes junior team. They sponsored him throughout his karting. So Lewis Hamilton would not be the racer he is today without Mercedes. However, he, as a driver himself, has achieved the impossible. He has broken the simulation race records. He has done perfect. He has got a perfect lap before. A perfect lap. He has won Grand Slams. He has 7 world titles underneath him. 7. That, Max Verstappen, this late into his career, has 4. And that has tied him with Sebastian Vettel and Alan Prost. Lewis Hamilton is tied with the likes of Michael Schumacher, who is the greatest driver of all time. Obviously, in my opinion and many others, Lewis Hamilton is also the greatest driver of all time. Maybe controversial, not to me. And if Max Verstappen is the greatest driver with only 4, that's half of what Lewis Hamilton has. Realistically, he should have 8, but that's not for me to decide. So, with the closure of Lewis Hamilton from Mercedes, there are other F1 season farewells. We can't forget Logan Sargent, who left midway through the 2024 season. He is going to IndyCar now, so he's moved on. Alongside the man that replaced him for the remaining races, Franco Cleppo. I was very unhappy when it was announced that Logan Sargent would be replaced, not only because a driver is getting replaced without a actual farewell, because they didn't let him know it was the last race. He knew when he crashed out and he didn't complete the race, it was a possibility, but to take someone's dream away and not even let him have a goodbye, it's just blatant disrespect. And then further, because you know he's going to be, like, next year you have Alex Albon and you have Carlos Sainz. And obviously you can't have Carlos Sainz move halfway mid the season. You take a driver like Franco Cleppo, who is an incredible driver, and go, so you know your dream. You know your dream is to drive an F1. And it's obviously been your dream for years and years, otherwise you wouldn't spend all this money, go through F4 and F3 and F2, and then be a reserve driver. Yeah, we're going to give it to you, but for half a season. And it's not like we're going to give you an option to extend. You're being replaced by Carlos Sainz, that's inevitable. He's worth more money, and then you're going to go. Oh, also there's, like, you can't go anywhere else. Apparently Red Bull, this is a rumor, made an offer, but because of his contract with Williams, he can't go. So they're kind of just like, yeah, you're gonna stay here, you have no option. Like, it's great he gets to drive for F1, but you get to see the childhood dream in front of him and get taken away. And you don't even get to live it. Like, at least Logan Sargent had 1.5 seasons. A guy that's better got half. It's a little unfair. But I just don't like James that much. I think he's been disappointed in how he treats some of his drivers, including Alex Albon, who has been mistreated his entire Formula 1 career, whether it's by the teams or it's by the media, especially when he's losing. He quoted once that he's a British driver until he's doing well, and then he's just a Thai driver, and they don't see him as being British anymore. Another farewell is to, we cannot forget, the legend himself, Daniel Ricciardo, the prince of F1 that should have been world champion. It was always coming. I think we all knew it. Every time he didn't perform well, it was overhead. He was obviously a incredible driver, and he was the life of F1. He was always smiling, always happy. Since the age of 9, Daniel Ricciardo has lived a life in a car. It was him in a car. This isn't the same as Logan Sargent, who had it's unfortunate he had 1.5 years. He had forever. He's a seasoned driver. He has 14 seasons. And he was replaced in a similar manner as Logan Sargent. He was told this may be his last race. It wasn't confirmed. So in Singapore, he stayed in the F1 car and just sat there breathing with this car that he's been inseparable from forever. Unwavering in his resilience, his last connection, his last moments before all his childhood dreams shattered before him. All the times he sat there, all the times his team disappointed him, all his sacrifices to Max Verstappen. He was supposed to win more races. He should have won Barcelona 2016. He should have won because Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg crashed into each other. He was winning, but because of pit stop strategy, Red Bull wanted to prioritize his first Grand Prix, Max Verstappen, over their seasoned driver, Daniel Ricciardo, which meant Max Verstappen won. Obviously, in his farewell in Singapore, Daniel Ricciardo gave a point away from Lando Norris to help his ex-teammate Max Verstappen by winning the fastest lap. which meant, obviously, it helped. I think Max Verstappen would have won anyway, but this was a symbol for their relationship. So while Daniel Ricciardo never became world champion, his kindness has left a lasting legacy on the Formula 1 world. And while he was not given a proper send-off, he was given a send-off by the fellow drivers, which is a testament to his profound impact on the sport. His replacement, Liam Lawson, remains a mystery whether or not it's a farewell to him. Maybe he's going to Red Bull. Maybe we don't even know if he's staying in the junior team. The whole Red Bull thing remains a mystery, and it probably will until Christian Horner reveals itself. It's also come into question whether Max Verstappen himself might retire. He did say that he plans to retire one day. I've never thought he would stay past 2026, which is when his contract ends. I think he's won all the world titles he has. And after he brought Penelope, which is Kelly's daughter, which is his girlfriend. His girlfriend's daughter came to the race. It was her first race there, and his car set on fire. And I think you could see from his attitude after then that I think he remembered and realized how dangerous F1 is. And I think he upped the retirement talk, and I think it's very possible that he could pull a Nico Rosberg and just retire. Because it was announced this week that he will be having a child with Kelly. So it's very possible that now he's going to be a dad, that he might retire. So there might be 2 replacements for Red Bull. Obviously his contract is to 2026, so we have to see how that will all play out. Another farewell to Joe, who does not have a drive for next year. Obviously it's rumoured that he will get a reserve role for Kick Sauber. I don't think it's really his fault. Kick Sauber has been a terrible car. They've had over 10-second pit stops. He won the first point for the team last race in Qatar when he came 10th, which was incredible for them. Unfortunately, he does not have a seat for next year, as a rookie will replace him. Kevin Magnussen is also departing from F1 to sports cars with BMW. Alongside him is Valtteri Bottas, who is leaving and moving on. He won 10 Grand Prix at Mercedes. It hasn't been revealed exactly what Bottas is planning to do. He's just said he's not ready to move on yet, and he's not sure. He could be a reserve driver. He could want to do sponsorships with F1. Maybe, like Kevin Magnussen and Logan Sargent, he's just going to move to a different karting race, like NASCAR, IndyCar, sports car. We don't know. But with Hamilton in red, 4 new rookies on the grid, and 4 teams in the mix for the 2025 Constructors Title, and even more for drivers, it's only a wonder what the 2025 season lies ahead. The pre-testing for the season begins in the end of February before the season kicks off on the 16th of March in Oscar Piastri's hometown of Australia. So that's all for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Next week, alongside a special guest, I will be discussing the entire 2021-2024 season. Hopefully we're gonna go through the races by year, the main events, such as, obviously this year has been an incredible year. This year marks the most multiple wins from different drivers, which is 7. It is the maiden wins for Oscar Piastri and for Lando Norris. It is a year that Charles Leclerc broke the curse on the Monaco Grand Prix. Previously, he has gone pole twice, which but the Monaco Grand Prix is known for, if you get pole, it's very easily, because it's a street race, very difficult to overtake, you're gonna win. Unfortunately, due to pit stop error, he lost both times, but this year was the first year that he won the Monaco Grand Prix, which is incredible. It hasn't happened, I think it's for like 75 years plus easily. That's never happened. It was a moment of victory for Ferrari and for Monaco himself. That wasn't only his home race he won this year, he also won the Ferrari home race in Monza, which they're both special to him. Speaking of home races, Lewis Hamilton, after over 1,000 days of not winning an F1 race, he won after the incident of Abu Dhabi 2021 when he was stolen his world title. Lewis Hamilton wins his 9th Grand Prix at Silverstone. And this is higher than any other driver, higher than himself, higher than Michael Schumacher. He now has over 203 podiums, which is the highest of any, which is incredible. He marks the history books every single year, even when he's not in a competitive car. There's always been this thing that the fast car wins F1. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton have disproven that again against Lando Norris, who was given the fastest car and couldn't perform and win. Max Verstappen obviously won his 4th, and McLaren win in 26 years. Over 26 years, McLaren have not won, and they win the Constructors title. Lando Norris said that he is ready for next year to win the Drivers' title. We have so many rookies and so many changes. Obviously, we're going to have to see how it pans out. Other historical marks this year, in the free practice, Charles Leclerc and Arthur Leclerc, brothers, both drove for Ferrari. This is the first time any brothers have driven together. They drove side by side when Charles Leclerc was in 1st and Arthur Leclerc was in 18th, and their mother watched, and I'm sure the Leclerc family, their father and Jules Bianchi, that helped pay for Charles Leclerc to be in Ferrari, are extremely proud of the moment that Charles Leclerc and Arthur Leclerc shared together. Unfortunately, Arthur Leclerc would probably be much further in his career, but Charles wouldn't be, because Arthur took a break for 5 years from karting. So the family, alongside Jules Bianchi's financial support, could pay for Charles Leclerc in F2. Obviously, Charles Leclerc had the most competitive F2 season ever. In fact, he was tested multiple times for how it was possible that he got the times he did. So Charles Leclerc he's known as like the most unlucky driver. It's pit stops, it's strategies, it's the most bizarre things going against him. But he is resilient, and hopefully next year, when he can learn from Lewis Hamilton, he learns even more and he puts aside the bad luck, and there's a possibility for Charles Leclerc to win the 2025 season. Maybe that's me being optimistic. I think while Lando Norris has the possibility to win because he has the car, I think you're underestimating Oscar Piastri. If he wasn't given team orders from the entire, people say it's the last part of the year. It was in his home race. His home race, he had a chance of winning the podium. They're like, no, okay, let Lando overtake you. Australia is at the very start of the season, and it's his home race. They would never do that to Lando in Silverstone. Obviously, he did get podium, he came 2nd, but they would never do that to him, but they did that to Oscar because he's the 2nd driver. Hopefully, Mark Webber, his manager, has sorted out a contract that will prevent this from happening again, and hopefully he earns his season. Obviously, as a Lewis Hamilton fan, I would love nothing more than Lewis Hamilton to win his 8th title. I think it's very unlikely when he's going to a new car for Ferrari. I think maybe 2026 he has a chance. Obviously 2026 is a wild card considering Red Bull Racing will no longer have Adrian Newey, which is the mechanic, the lead engineer for Red Bull, which has designed the competitive cars, as he is moving to Aston Martin, who will still have Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso. Will the two-time champion Fernando Alonso come back for a third in 2026? There's many questions. There's many questions how the rookies will perform, how the cars will perform. We get a look at the liveries in the 75 celebration in London, even though Max Verstappen himself have obviously commented that he would rather not do that at all. And with that, the 2024 season comes to an end. Lewis Hamilton was celebrated the week before in his white suit, which he used to have at the beginning of his career. He changed his profile to the beginning, and this is the end of an era. This is the end of Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton, but it is also the start of a beautiful celebration of racing, with a team that celebrate him rather than just see him for his age and his limitations. Ferrari is excited to have Lewis Hamilton. He will be historical in his legacy. He is moving into the legacy house that not many drivers get. It's going to be incredible. He's one of the only drivers who have ever driven for Mercedes and Ferrari. The other driver is himself and Michael Schumacher. Obviously Michael Schumacher did it the other way, but Lewis Hamilton notably replaced Michael Schumacher when he left Mercedes, and this will be interesting. Ferrari is it's more than a team. The other teams they are race teams. Ferrari it's part of the history of Formula One. It's an important team. It means more to the Italian people than, I wouldn't say Mercedes belongs to a certain country or a team. Obviously they have British drivers at the moment. They've had a British driver for the most time. Obviously it's a German company, but Ferrari means something. It's important. It's a legacy. Every single driver wants to drive for Ferrari. Sebastian Vettel once said, if you imagine a car, you imagine it red. So in 2025, we will imagine Lewis Hamilton in a red suit, in a red car. And that's all for this evening on Box Box with Skye Williamson. I will see you next week whilst we discuss the entirety of the 2024 season. And after that, I will be returning after the 13th of January. Like Formula One, I'm taking a break, and so should you. Otherwise, I might continue crying about Lewis Hamilton leaving. Good night.